Welcome to Mayberry. For millions of us, it was the perfect town. Warm, safe, and built on the rock-solid friendship of Sheriff Andy Taylor and his deputy, Barney Fife. Their chemistry seemed effortless. But what if I told you the real magic, the stuff that made this show immortal, were the moments that weren't in the script? This wasn't a set full of actors, it was a room full of best friends, desperately trying not to laugh. And today, we're looking at the top 5 legendary moments where that battle was completely lost. Our countdown begins with the most infamous breakdown in Mayberry history. A scene so funny, it took 20 takes to film, because the funniest man on set, Don Knotts, could not stop laughing. We've all been there, right? That moment in a quiet room where you know you're not supposed to laugh, which of course makes it 1,000 times funnier. Now, imagine that's your job, and your best friends are the ones making you do it. The scene is from Season 2, Guest of Honor. Barney Fife is in full, self-important military mode. He's organizing a civilian patrol to protect a visiting dignitary. He is giving a fiery, serious briefing. His big line, meant to inspire his bumbling troops, is, "Nip it in the bud." The script was simple. Barney gives his speech, yells, "Let's hear it," and Floyd the barber is supposed to quietly respond, "Nip it." But here's what the script didn't account for. Howard McNear. Don Knotts himself later admitted that Howard McNear was the one person on set who could make him ruin a lot of takes because you never knew what McNear was going to do. On the first take, Don Knotts, as Barney, yelled, "Let's hear it." And Howard McNear, instead of quietly saying the line, leaned forward with a bizarre, aggressive energy and shouted right in Don's face, "Nip it."
Now, the minute it looks like there's gonna be trouble, to nip it! Nip it in the bud! Nip it! Nip it!
It was completely unexpected. It was unhinged. And Don Knotts lost it. He broke. He collapsed into a giggle fit. But it gets so much better. "Cut!" they yelled. They reset. Don pulled himself together, got back into the serious Barney character. Take 2. Let's hear it. Howard McNear did it again. Nip it. Don broke again. They tried 20 times. 20 takes of Don Knotts trying to survive Howard McNear shouting "Nip it" at him. The entire set was in hysterics. And the best part? You can still see the evidence in the final broadcasted episode. Go watch the scene. When Barney yells, "Let's hear it," watch his hand. He doesn't cup his ear. He raises his hand to hide his face, a desperate last-ditch move after 20 takes to keep from laughing. The camera then instantly cuts away to Andy, who is also visibly smiling. It was a complete breakdown, but this was the funny man, Don Knotts, being broken by another comedian. What happened when Andy, the straight man, the one whose job it was to hold it all together, was the one who broke? In our last segment, we saw the funny man, Don Knotts, completely broken by the chaotic genius of Howard McNear. It took 20 takes. But what about the other guy? What about Andy Griffith? Andy's job, his entire professional decision, was to be the straight man, the calm, stone-faced center. His job was to anchor the show's reality, to let Jesse, his secret nickname for Don, get all the laughs. But that meant Andy Griffith had the hardest, most impossible job in television. He had to sit 3 feet away from the comedic supernova that was Don Knotts, and he was not allowed to laugh. And in Season 3, in the episode Barney's Sidecar, he almost lost the fight. The scene is pure Mayberry gold. Barney, in his classic, misguided but confident mode, decides to lecture young Opie on the importance of the U.S. Constitution. To prove his point, he decides to recite the preamble, the introduction, from memory. Now, imagine you're Andy Griffith. You're sitting right there. This is your best friend. You know his timing. You know what he's capable of. And you have to keep a straight face for the camera while Don Knotts, with absolute unwavering seriousness, begins to speak. And the words that come out are not the preamble. It's a masterpiece of gibberish. Barney puffs up his chest and says, "We, the people of the United Flag, breathe, win, star, states." It's brilliant. He's searching for the words and grabbing whatever patriotic-sounding nonsense pops into his head. He continues, "In order to establish justice." But here's the magic, the real comedy. It's not just what Barney says, it's what Andy does.
We the
People.
We the people. Ball. We the people. We the people of
The United.
We the people of the United Flag. Breathe. Win. Wave. Star. States.
To form a
To form a more perfect you.
Nyan.
Yan. In order to form a more perfect union.
Establish. Test. And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity to ordain and establish this Constitution.
The camera cuts to Andy, and he is fighting for his life. You can see it. He's not just acting serious. He is physically suppressing a full-blown laugh. He's pressing his lips together so hard they've turned white. He's biting the inside of his cheek. He tries to look away from Don, but there's nowhere to hide. You can see the laughter trapped in his eyes. He is so close to completely breaking. And this isn't just fans speculating. Andy Griffith himself confirmed this. Years later, in an interview, Andy laughed just remembering the moment and said, "I almost went one time." This was the time. Ron Howard, who played Opie, was sitting right between them, watching these two comedy titans try to hold it together. This wasn't a blooper. This was lightning in a bottle. This was the love and respect between two best friends, manifested as one friend desperately trying not to ruin the take, while the other friend delivered a Hall of Fame performance. So, we've seen the funny man break, nip it, and we've seen the straight man almost break, the Constitution. But what about a scene, a performance, so perfectly, absurdly funny that for decades, fans insisted it must have been a mistake, even when it wasn't? The Phantom Blooper is next. If you'd like to support the research we do to uncover deep stories like this one, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means we can continue to bring these untold truths to light. So in our first two stories, we saw the cast truly break. In Nip It, the funny man, Don Knotts, was taken down by a surprise attack. In the Constitution, the straight man, Andy Griffith, was almost taken down by a brilliant performance. But the next legend on our list is the most fascinating one of all. This is the story of a scene so perfectly, absurdly, and tragically funny that for 50 years, fans swore it must have been a blooper. They insisted the actors must have broken. But the real story is even better. This is the case of the Phantom Blooper. The episode is Season 3's Barney's First Car, and the premise is heartbreakingly hilarious. Barney has finally saved up his life savings, $300, to buy his very own automobile. He's so proud. He's finally one of the guys. The problem, he doesn't buy it from a dealership. He buys it from a sweet, grandmotherly-looking woman known as Mert Hubcaps Lesh. Yes, Hubcaps. And she sells him a 1954 Ford Custom Line that is a complete piece of junk. It's a lemon.
I do, ma'am.
Pleasure.
Oh, you mind if I give her a once-over?
Oh, mercy, you do whatever you like.
All right.
Would you take me out to Johnston sometime, Pa?
Let you milk a cow.
Just like
To me, you got too much grease in your steering column. Boy, she's boiling but good.
The car immediately falls apart, but the real comedy, the real pain, comes after. Barney, realizing he has been conned by a sweet old lady, is humiliated. He retreats to the courthouse, and Andy finds him wallowing in shame. And this is the scene. Barney, furious at himself, goes on one of his classic, self-important tirades. He puffs up his chest and tells Andy, "You can fool me once, maybe, just one time, but never again." He goes on and on, trying to convince himself that he's learned his lesson. And then, seconds later, the courthouse door opens. In walks another sweet old lady, Mrs. Temple, and she's selling something. Barney, still fuming from his never again speech, immediately falls for her pitch. It is the perfect, most tragic, most Barney moment in the show's history. The performance by Don Knotts is so brilliant, it's almost too good. And that's where the legend was born. For decades, fans have pointed to this scene. "Look at Andy," they'd say. "He must be laughing. There is no way they got through this." The belief was that the scene was so funny, it had to be a blooper that they just left in the show. But we checked the research. We checked the archives. We checked the cast interviews. There is no 20-take nip-it disaster here. There is no "I almost went" confession from Andy. So why is this a top 5 legend? Because this scene is the phantom blooper. It's the moment where Don Knotts' scripted performance was so perfect, so devastatingly funny, that our brains refused to believe it was acting. The legend wasn't born because the actors broke. The legend was born because we, the audience, break every single time we watch it. We project our own laughter onto them. This proves that Don Knotts didn't even need a mistake to be legendary. His genius was the special effect. But what if I told you that the show's most beloved, most genuine feeling scenes weren't genius performances at all, because they weren't in the script? At the end of our last segment, I asked a question. What if the show's most genuine, most beloved moments, the scenes that truly define the friendship of Andy and Barney, were not in the script? This isn't a theory. This is a fact, confirmed by the man who was sitting right there watching it all, Ron Howard. In an interview years later, Ron Howard was asked about those quiet moments. You know the ones. The scenes where Andy and Barney are just sitting on the front porch bench or in the police car, not advancing the plot, just talking. They feel like the most real parts of the show. And Ron Howard revealed the secret. They were real. He explained that those scenes were, almost always, completely improvised. This wasn't an artistic choice. It was a technical emergency. The show had a brutal, fast-paced production schedule. They would film Monday through Wednesday, rehearse Thursday, and read a new script Friday. Sometimes, late on a Wednesday, the director, Aaron Rubin, would time the episode and realize a terrifying fact. They were short. The episode didn't have enough minutes to fill the 30-minute broadcast slot. On any other show, this is a panic. It means calling in the writers, staying late, and trying to force a new, badly written scene into the story. But this was Mayberry. According to Ron Howard, the director wouldn't panic. He would just walk over to Andy Griffith and say the magic words. "Andy, Jesse, we're short. Come on, Jesse." That was Andy's secret, loving nickname for Don Knotts. This wasn't an order from a boss. It was a signal to his best friend. And here's what would happen next. Andy and Don wouldn't call the writers. They would just huddle up. They'd stand in the corner of the set, just the two of them, and whisper. They knew the characters. They knew the story. They'd figure out a simple premise, and then they'd walk back to the director and say, "We're ready." The cameras would roll, and Andy and Barney would just exist. They would talk about the weather. They'd discuss a random citizen. They'd argue about nothing. It was raw, unscripted, genuine chemistry. It was the friendship you saw on screen solving a real-life production problem in real time by being those characters. This wasn't just genius. This was functional genius. So we've seen the cast break from laughter. We've seen them almost break. We've seen performances so good they looked like breaks. And now we know their most genuine scenes were improvised. This entire show was built on a foundation of real, uncontrollable joy. But what if I told you that joy, that genius, left physical evidence? I'm not talking about a feeling. I'm talking about damage. What happens when a laugh is so powerful, it literally starts breaking the set? At the end of our last segment, I asked a question. What happens when a laugh is so powerful, it leaves physical damage? This isn't a metaphor. This is the final and most unbelievable Mayberry legend. This is the story of Andy Griffith's laughter and how it was so strong, so explosive, it literally punched holes in the walls. The primary source for this story isn't a reporter or a tabloid. It's an eyewitness, Don Knotts' own daughter, Karen Knotts. In her book, Tied Up in Knots, she described what it was like to visit the set as a young girl. She would watch her father, Don, perform a scene. He would nail a perfect, brilliant Barney Fife moment, and the director would finally yell, "Cut." And that is when the real show would begin. Because Andy Griffith's laughter was an event. Karen Knotts said the entire crew would burst into applause and laughter. But Andy's reaction was something else entirely. She said he would throw his head back and just roar, "Ha ha 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 ha." He'd stomp around the set, overcome with pure joy. But Karen was shocked by what happened next. She watched Andy Griffith, her father's best friend, laughing so hard that he would walk over to one of the wooden set walls and punch it. He didn't just tap it, he would punch a hole right through the scenery. This wasn't anger. It was the only physical way he could express the overwhelming, explosive joy and admiration he felt for his friend's comedic genius. It was a physical reaction to perfection. But here's the part that proves everything about the magic of this set. Was this a one-time thing? An accidental outburst? No. According to Karen, this was a recurring behavior. This was just what Andy did. It became normal. The Andy punches a wall routine. And the set crew, the grips, were they upset that he was destroying their set? No. They loved it. Karen Knotts asked her father, Don, about it. She said, "Dad, Andy just punched a hole in the wall." And Don Knotts just laughed and told her, "I know. You know who really loves Andy's laugh? The grips. They get overtime pay to fix the holes." Stop and think about that. The joy on this set, the love between these two friends, was so powerful, so consistent, and so physical that repairing holes in the wall from Andy's laughter became a regular, expected, budgeted part of the show's production. That is why we still love Mayberry. The laughter wasn't fake. It wasn't just in the script. It was real. It was uncontrollable. And sometimes it was literally destructive. That's the magic of Andy and his Jessie. Thanks for spending some time in Mayberry with us. If these stories made you smile or just reminded you why this friendship was so real, please show your support. Hit that like button. It truly helps other fans of classic TV find these stories. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next trip down memory lane.